Oh, baby, this little guy right here is really going through. You okay? My
What
goodness.
is that?
Oh, baby, it's a monkey. It's a monkey with a cold. You know how hard they are to find? You would never believe what I had to go through to get this.
A monkey with a cold?
Yeah, yeah, you said you wanted a monkey with a cold. You want me to bring home a monkey with a cold?
No, no, no. I said bring me back a movie. Something old. Not a monkey with a cold.
So what we gonna do with this little guy?
Lord, let me see.
Oh, my goodness. Have you ever walked away from a discussion with your spouse knowing you just thinking that you knew it had been agreed upon, only to kind of find out that you both had a difference of opinion, a difference of understanding? We're going to talk about why that is and more. Hey, this is Vincent.
And Valerie Woodard.
And we on Couples Pursue, we want to talk about tools to help you maintain a successful marriage. So in this episode of Couples Pursue, we're going to talk about...
we're going to talk about some barriers to effective communication.
Yes. It's so many. I'm so proud of you right now because the fact that you're having a conversation, the fact that you're communicating with one another, that's our work. That's our passion here at Couples Pursue, is to get couples communicating and connecting back together. So the fact that you're having a barrier to communication, I'm excited for you. You want to help you work through this because the fact that you're even watching this video means you want to understand why we keep having this misconception, we keep missing each other. So some common things can happen. We want to talk about a couple of them, but there are many things like lack of focus, understanding, maybe not a topic might be important on one person's mind, but the other person kind of wants to avoid it, and so many other things. So stay tuned, share with someone, get some popcorn because I think it's going to be worth your while.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important for us to talk about this. Some things we've talked about in other videos having to do with communication are, the way people communicate, like their style of communication, their type of communication. And then we talk about the love language, and that has to do with how they relate to each other or how they prefer to be related to. And all of those things can be symptoms of ineffective communication if they don't see eye to eye on those issues or they don't understand. For instance, if my husband is passive and I'm passive aggressive, if we communicate in different styles, when we go to have a conversation, he doesn't necessarily want to talk about it. And then if I'm passive aggressive, then I'm like raw, and that doesn't make it better. I'm agitated because he doesn't want to talk, and he is withdrawn because I'm too forward or too aggressive. And so that is just one example of how, it can be difficult to communicate if you don't talk about how to communicate.
That is awesome. That is awesome. The fact that even knowing your communication style can help you go so far in communicating effectively with your spouse. And some things we want to talk about tonight, some barriers of communication. Like what are some things that we actually can put in our path? Either, we do it knowingly or maybe unknowingly. And one of the things on top of the list is a lack of focus. Yes. Sometimes we can, be in a conversation with our spouse and we're listening, but we might have a phone in front of us. We might have the TV playing in the background. It might be the Matrix on, and I love the Matrix. We're not talking about me. I'm sorry, but sometimes there can be other things. You can be putting the groceries away. You could be doing your hair. You could be whatever, getting ready for work, and you're thinking you're having a conversation about really something that's important to the relationship, but you're trying to multitask. Yeah. And with that, you really can't focus on two things at one time. You can do many things, but I'm saying focus. And so if we're having an intense conversation or a detailed conversation about our relationship, I think it's best to put down the phone.
Right. To listen with your whole body. Right? Because what he said was, you're listening, but you're on the phone. Well, if you're on the phone, then you're not actively listening. You're hearing, and you pick up bits and pieces of what they're saying. You may get 90% of what they're saying, but that 10% that you don't get, it may be the important part that you need to. And often, with communication, it is important for me and many others that when I'm speaking with someone, I would like for you to look at me when I'm talking to you, so that we engage, so that I'm not talking at you, I'm not talking at the back of your head, so you understand what I'm saying. You hear not only what I say, but you see me, because I don't just communicate with my words, I communicate with my body as well. And so when you are turned away or you're looking at something else, you're communicating with your body that you don't have my full attention.
Exactly. And it could lead to the example that we gave at the beginning, where
a monkey with a comb. This little fella. Welcome to the family.
He's here now. He's here, okay? Because you're not really giving your full attention to the topic at hand. We talk about so many things. Well, in this case, we're talking about relationship. We talk about relational issues. We're talking about things that is something either important to your wife or you, and you really wanted to tell or get across to your spouse, what's really on your heart, and you really want them to understand, take away from this conversation what it is you're putting into it, and you don't really like the feeling when you tell somebody something, they kind of like maybe dismissive, passively or not, just intentionally. And you're like, wow, why did I even share that with them? They
just pour my heart out to you. And you're like, yeah, okay. I heard you, and it's like, whoa. And it can be something as communication, effective communication is important when you're talking about daily things, tasks and things like that. Like, who's going to pick up the kids? Did you get the laundry?
Well, that's important.
Well, that is important. Right? Those things are important. But also when it comes to issues of conflict and disagreement, it is important to listen to the other person and to listen with understanding, or listen to understand what they're saying, instead of just assuming you already know what they're going to say and you already have an answer for it.
That leads us to our next subtopic in this topic of barriers to communication: pretending to understand. Pretending to understand. Sometimes you don't want to keep asking your spouse, what'd you say? That's me. Maybe my wife might not be that way.
Yeah, because I'm going to ask you, what you mean?
Yeah,
what you say?
Yeah. And sometimes as a man, I'm thinking, okay, I got it. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. And really, did I?
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
and sometimes I don't do that intentionally, but I do acknowledge that sometimes I'm doing multiple things, and my wife says something, and I've said, okay, well, yeah, I got it. I didn't really get it. I think I'm eventually going to get it. That's what I'm thinking. I'm eventually going to get it, and I don't. And I fail miserably. And while, I'm saying to myself, I should just pay attention.
And then he asked me, what did you say? Or he'll ask me about the thing that I've told him about. And it's like, oh. And I'm thinking to myself, now I know I told him that. And it's like, and then he'll say to me, fair enough. He'll say to me, well, baby, you said so many things. I didn't really, sometimes, if you have a talker like me, it may be difficult for you to absorb everything I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So sometimes it may not get it all. So sometimes I may have to repeat things. But if you're listening to me, if I'm listening to him with my whole person, then we should be able to take the time to absorb whatever our spouse is trying to tell us. And it helps when he says, well, you said a lot. I don't remember all of that, because I'm a person who is always thinking. My brain is always going. And so when I start sharing, I was sharing about A, F, G. I'm like jumping. Sometimes, honestly, I know I have a lot on my mind, and so I talk about a lot of things. And so I have to understand, okay, now if I want him to understand and hear what I need to say, then I need to be specific.
Yeah.
Right? About what I want to say. And I need to make sure that I articulate it well, so then we don't have an issue.
Exactly. And that's why I had to learn that to listen actively to actually put down my phone, stop what I was doing. Maybe I was just looking in the refrigerator for something to eat. You know, kind of just
turn off the train that's already going in your mind.
Yeah. And because I know that my wife likes to talk, and she's a talker. She's an effective communicator. Don't get me wrong. You know, and sometimes she's waiting to talk to me.
Like, I have lots of words.
Yeah, she's waiting, but she's waiting to talk to me. You know, and so when I come home, I want to hear what she has to say, because I know, you know, she wants to share. Sometimes she hasn't. Maybe she might have spoken to her girlfriends, but no, I'm the
or my mom.
I'm the man. I'm a male. I'm her boyfriend. I'm a boo. You know, with some things she wants to tell me. The husband, guess what? You know, so I have to listen actively, and I want to. You know, I want to hear what she has to say. Yeah. I ain't gonna fool you.
He's a good listener, y'all. Sometimes he'll forget what I have said, but you have improved greatly, and I appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
I do.
Well, that leads us to another subject.
Oh, wait.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to say one more thing about pretending to understand. Sometimes we pretend to understand, like, I know what you mean, because we don't want to hear it. We don't want to talk about it. It's like, yes, I got it. And then the issue will come back up again, because really you haven't understood. You just kind of ignored. You know, you lied.
So the way to combat that is to active listening. To get clarity.
Right. If you don't understand, ask the question. Don't be afraid that it's going to lead to a deeper or longer conversation, because the work that it takes to be effective communicators is well worth it in the end.
It really is. And you really don't want to leave the conversation with a partial understanding. Like I said, especially if it's a weighty issue, it's an important issue, and it's something that your spouse really wants to share with you, really wants you to get, really wants you to walk away with the understanding that we're both on the same page here. So really ask the question. I might have to ask the question again. Baby, I'm sorry. Back up. Now,
You're good at that.
Yeah, I did.
You're good at that.
I did implement that into having conversations, because sometimes I think I know what she's talking about. But I've learned that that's not always correct. That's not always correct. So I want to get that clarity. Like, am I picking the kids up, or are you picking the kids?
Because after we talk about getting the kids, I have told him about 4 or 5 different things. It's like, let me circle back. So, and it's not a bad thing to repeat or reiterate, or, you know, just make sure you have it, you know, correct. And that can go both ways. So what you meant, you know, what you're saying is, you know, so what we're going to do tomorrow is this, right? And then on Thursday, we're going to do such and such, right? No. What I was saying is, we're going to do this, and then on Thursday, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And then
you just, a lot.
Right. So then you don't have problems.
That's important. That's important. So active listening can help solve a lot of issues and don't pretend to listen. I want to double back on or triple back on that, because we double back on it. But don't pretend to listen. Just take that out. You know, if you listen, you're gonna listen and be right there. Be in the moment. You know, soak it all in as much as you can. If some spills out, you know, just wait a minute, babe. I need to. Let me get back to this, because I really want to understand what you're saying. So don't pretend to listen. Just take that off.
Right. Especially with serious matters, you know, where emotions are involved, and like I said before, where conflict is involved. Because if you don't deal with it effectively, it's going to come back like weeds.
And so, and that kind of is a great segue to our point of sometimes there are weighty issues that we might have put off, and we might not want to deal with head on, but now it's head on. and it's here. And you want to talk about it, or your spouse wants to talk about it, and so here we go. And you can't keep avoiding the subject, and that's a barrier to effective communication, when you keep avoiding the subject, especially when it's on one of your hearts. You know, if somebody we really want to get past this, we really want to deal with this, whatever it is, whether it's having to move your parent in or whatever. I don't know. It's something, it's just a little deeper than, okay, am I buying groceries or you buying groceries? It's something that you really have to have a conversation about. And it can't be just one person's decision. It has to be a decision you both make together.
Now, that's a good point that you bring that up, because I had a conversation with someone recently who talked about, in our home, we have a Christian home, and our principles are based on Christianity, and so that means you're the head, right? And although you're the head, that doesn't mean that we don't have conversation.
That's right.
It doesn't mean that there's a gavel and he makes the final judgment and that's it. He does get to have the say, but it's after we've discussed.
Yes.
What we're going to talk about, or whatever the issue is. It's not like a dictatorship.
Yes, because man, God made her for that purpose, to be the suitable helper in whatever decision that we're making. She's built for that. So why not? Yeah, why not run that and not run it across like, oh, I don't care what you say, I'm going to do it anyway. No, I want to know, really, baby, this is the issue. What can we do? Well, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm going to tell you my thoughts. We're going to give our thoughts.
Right. Well, this is taking us in a different direction, but it's important as well. When, it says, the word says he gave Adam a suitable helpmeet, right? When you think of help meet, I help him to meet the decisions that have to be made. I help him through prayer. I help him through grace. I help him through my own discernment that comes from the Holy Spirit that may speak something to me that he hasn't thought or heard of. And so then it's important that, we work together and not independent of one another when it comes to making decisions about our family and our home.
Exactly. So our recommendation would be to not avoid those weighty issues, not, as I would say, dance around them, skirt around them. There's a time and a place to talk. And there's a time and a place to, if we can't make a decision right now, let's not just say, well, all right, and just move on to something else. No, we're going to come back to this.
Decide and agree that you're going to come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't just keep, pass. Can I call a friend? No. This is your thing.
Right, right.
You have to make together.
Yes.
And also, to lead us to our other point, I think it's 4 or 5. I didn't write my numbers down. But to not overtalk your spouse. Not to, one of you may be more talkative than the other. One could be extreme. Like just one likes to talk, another one just like, If you want to have a conversation, one of the barrier to effective communication is the talker just saying what they want to say and really not leaving room for the other person to give feedback.
Right.
And you really want their feedback.
You should.
You should.
You should want their feedback, because if you don't, then that is selfish. And it's one-sided. And I wanted to say also that, another barrier to ineffective communication is it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. If you're a yeller, a screamer, if you're dismissive, if you're sarcastic, if you're belittling, all of those things are going to, it may get your spouse to be quiet, which might be what you want, but it doesn't help. Because if you shut them down, then you don't hear what they have to say, but then you still have the issue.
Yes.
You still have the issue. Their needs are still unmet, and we should not be selfish, in just wanting our way and wanting to say what we have to say, and that's that.
Yes. Yes. We talked about before at the camera, before we got on camera. We talked about how one person could just actually talk over the other person. Like even when the other person starts to interject, starts to say what's on their mind, the person
just shut them down.
Yeah, talk more about that. Yeah.
Well, I think it's very important that you understand everyone has a right to express how they feel. Now, it's one thing for you to have a difference in the way that you communicate, in the style that you communicate, right? So if you're passive aggressive, if you're assertive, and then what's the other one? Passive aggressive, assertive, and something different than that. If you're something other than that, and you and your spouse are not on the same page about how you communicate with one another.
Aggressive.
Yeah, aggressive, right.
I'm doing it in my head. I'm like, okay, I know this.
Right.
I know this.
We talk about this so many times. But it's not okay. It's okay to be different, but it's not okay to dismiss the difference.
That's right.
Sometimes we can say, well, this is how I am. Well, that's wonderful, right? You can learn something new every day. And one of the things that we should learn, and one of the reasons why marriage is beneficial, is that we learn how to get along. We learn how to change and move and mold together as we become one flesh, right? Then we have to learn how to get along with one another, which means it may be fine for him to be the way he is, right? It's fine for me to be the way that I am. But when we're trying to figure out how to navigate, then it's also a good thing for both of us to be able to be complementary to one another.
That's right, and fluid.
And fluid with one another. And so if one person is always, yelling or fussing or screaming or whatever it is, then you shut the other person down. And it's just not fair, and it doesn't get anything done. Did I answer your question? Because I went somewhere else, I think.
No, you did, because when the other person kind of is basically shooting the other person down, they're talking and kind of over talking them. Like, I want to get my point all the way out across. Don't interrupt me. Don't say that. I want to keep talking until basically I run out of breath or take
or you just leave.
And then I'm like, a great excuse, well, not excuse, is they really believe that in their mind. Like, this is just the way I am. I can't change. Well, that's like my wife, she debunked that. That's not true. It's a great quote that says, if it matters to you, you'll make a way. If it doesn't matter to you, you make an excuse.
You're making it. Ooh, that's good. High five on that one. Exactly. Because people will say, well, this is, he knew how I was when he or she met me, and so and so and so. Well, Lord, have mercy.
That was 20-something.
That was right. We have to realize that the way we are is the way that we know to be, right? But that doesn't mean that there's not another way to do a thing well or to do a thing correctly.
That's right.
And when you don't consider the other person, it is selfish, it's prideful, it's inconsiderate, and, it's just, it's unproductive and it's ineffective.
Yeah, and it's the barrier to effective.
It is a barrier to, and then that, when you create a barrier to effective, when you think about a barrier, you might think about a wall, a brick wall, a partition. What it is it builds, and it builds. And if you continually communicate ineffectively, then it will change your relationship. It will change your spouse, even if it doesn't change you, because maybe you're the person who has it your way, right? Okay. Even if it doesn't change you, it changes them, and you don't get the full benefit of the relationship because that person doesn't get to be free and heard and seen in that relationship, and it's a deformity.
Exactly. Yeah. So don't overtalk your spouse,
right?
And make room for feedback,
yes,
for cooperative conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
Leave that space because you really want to have a conversation with them.
You do. And some things that we want to share with you before we go today is some tips about effective communication is don't say one thing and then do something else, right? Don't say with your mouth, yes, I understand, and then go, You really don't understand, right?
Say what you mean what you say.
Right. When an issue comes up, deal with it. We're adults.
And take responsibility for it if you didn't do the thing.
If you didn't do the thing
you was going to do.
Exactly.
Baby, you're right. I'm sorry.
There's nothing wrong with saying that.
But don't just dismiss it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very prideful to think that we're always right and we never need to apologize. That's just foolishness, right? Be respectful. Focus on the current issue. Don't talk about everything else. Talk about what the issue is. If you have an issue, then you bring that issue up at a different time. Don't wait until your spouse has something to say and be like, well, and by the way, since you want to talk about that, no, that's childish and immature.
Yeah, we can't talk about all the issues all at one time.
You can't, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't. Okay, so focus on the current issue. Fight fair, and do not use verbal weapons. Don't say things that you know are going to harm your spouse. Because, again, that's selfish and retaliatory. You don't want to fight them. Be clear and concise about what you want to say. Be honest, but sensitive. Well, I'm just telling you the truth. Well, you can say the truth in a very negative way. You can do that. You can be rude.
You know you.
The truth is not rude, right?
Yeah, that's not nice.
It may be concrete, but it doesn't have to be rude and disrespectful. Avoid making or accepting excuses too quickly from your spouse or to your spouse. Because when we give each other an out, a passive person might be like, well, okay, well, I didn't mean to yell at you. Well, you did it the 13th time this week. So, maybe you did mean it. So don't, let's talk about why you're yelling.
Yeah.
Get to the meat of the thing. Ask questions for clarity. You did make that point. Be conscious of how you speak. Use positive statements. Use I statements when you're talking to your spouse. When you have an issue, I feel, I think, I need, I will do this. Instead of you. Yeah, that doesn't work.
That's so important, especially when you're wanting to express something that's very important to you. Don't say to your partner, you always do this, or you always do that. No, if you have something that you really feel deeply about and you really want to address, let's start with how just acknowledge what you do. What I feel. Like my wife said, just acknowledge that about you first. And let's make room for, okay, no, I'm not saying I'm perfect, because this is how I feel.
Or this is how I feel when this happens, because it's also not always about how you feel about the situation. Here we're talking about just acknowledging and taking responsibility, right? And then just a couple more things. Be aware of your body language and your eye contact. Give them your full attention. Watch your hands gestures, watch all of those things. Don't laugh or belittle your spouse, especially when they are sharing their feelings. Watch the language that you use.
You always crying. You
so weak.
So
emotional. You always complaining. Something's always wrong with you. That is so antagonistic.
Okay, something is wrong.
Right.
That is your spouse. You should care.
Yeah.
And let's listen, because if we're not going to deal with it right now, it can come back, and then you're like, wow, I thought we dealt with that. No, we talked about it, but we never actually addressed it. We never actually dealt with it.
Yeah. And here's another thing. Consider this. You may be perfectly fine with the way you are, right? No one's ever challenged how you think, feel, or believe, or no one's ever been successful at letting you know that this doesn't work for them, right? Maybe you just move on from that relationship. But think about the fact that maybe your spouse does something you don't like and how much you would appreciate it if they didn't do that. Well, it goes both ways. You can learn something about yourself as well. When you listen effectively, you can learn something about yourself. The last point I want to make is be clear about what you want to say and be mindful of the impact and the intent. Think about what you say and how it's going to, what your intent is, and then how you say it. How is that going to impact them? Because everything doesn't need to be said.
That's good, baby.
It does. Everything doesn't need to be said.
That's good. And also there is a time and place. Sometimes, especially when it's going to be one of them conversations where we're going to talk. I really want to talk, and sometimes it's not always a time and place to do this particular talk.
Right.
Not everything doesn't need to be said, and then when it does need to be said, not every place and not every time is a great time.
Yeah.
We got the NCAA basketball, coming up. We got the Super Bowl just passed. Look, I'm not saying if it's a boundary breaking issue, like your spouse, just stayed out all day and just came back to the house and didn't speak to you, and he wants to watch the game. No. Click up. No, that's something you discussed before. That's a boundary breaking issue. No. But if it's not one of those issues, we just something you want to talk about, and the game's about to come on. You might have him turn his head to you and start listening to you, but you won't have his attention.
And don't be surprised if you don't, because if your spouse watches sports and he's telling you the game is coming on, or even if you forgot or you don't know, and that's the moment when he's watching the game, if it's not that important, if nobody's dying or bleeding or choking or something, let the man watch his game, or the woman, because women like sports too. I don't, but I respect my husband's love of it. I will sit down with him sometimes, right? March Madness, sometimes I'll be in the room. Right, I can be in the room. Now, I can be on my phone while he's watching sports, so sometimes my company is nice for him. Well, he's enjoying it, and then he can just like shake me or jump up and down and to me, and I'm like, yeah.
I know what he's saying. we hope you learned something today. Oh, the monkey. We hope you learned something today. And if you did, please leave a comment.
Yes.
Like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. And also shoot us a comment.
Yeah.
If you can, we read them all, and we would love to hear from you. And the barrier to effective communication, most of the time, they can be us. We can do things or say things, and we know that our spouse is not really receptive of, and not really, in the right mindset. They could be doing other things, and let's talk about those things at the beginning. Say, look, baby, when I want to talk to you, can I talk? Can we talk right now? This is a good time, because you have to take. You might not know they have something else going on. You might not know. It might have been a work emergency. You might not know. So just ask the questions. But let's just have open dialogue. Like I said, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you of actually having the issue where I'm trying to communicate. Yeah. But we're having these issues.
Yeah.
Work through them.
Yes. And don't always say no now is not a good time. Because some people just don't want to deal with issues, and it's not fair to keep putting your spouse off.
That's right.
It's not.
That's good.
Yeah. It's the equivalent to them being thirsty or hungry and wanting to eat or drink, and they can't do that unless you have that conversation with them. And then if you refuse, it's just unkind.
It's unkind.
Yeah.
It's unkind.
It is.
And man, you should make yourself available. This is your spouse here. This is the person you love. This is the person I hope you do. And you still do. And this is the person you really want the best for them. And the best for them is you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So thank you for listening. We appreciate you so much. So until next time on Couples in Pursuit, we love to see your comments. We love to see whatever you have to say.
We hear you, Erica.
Yeah, we can see your emails and everything. Yes, and share with someone that you know that might either be going through or this might be good information for them. All righty.
So until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you and give you peace. We'll see you next time on Couples Pursuit Live.
Bye.